Hi, no, I have a question. Like, as an atheist,
Okay.
what do you believe in the afterlife?
That there's nothing there. It's like, it's like going to sleep and not being aware that you're asleep.
So, like, when you die, you just like you're dead.
hmm I mean, the good news is there is that you'll never know it. So, you know,
Yeah.
uh, at some point, I mean, I feel really bad, obviously. I feel saddest for people who become severely ill younger, before they've had a full, decent life. But at some point, we all gotta, the ride's over. So,
So, like, this
thanks.
is kind of like my understanding of atheism. Like, I think I'm assuming like you guys would believe like the Big Bang and evolution, and like we're kind of like a collection of chemicals and cells that come together by chance, and then whenever we die, we just like go into the earth and like people move on with our lives, right?
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I
Like
don't always like the word chance. I usually have to ask a little bit more about that. But generally speaking, yeah, you're correct there.
so, like I guess kind of the doom and gloom behind what I feel about it is it kind of seems like whenever you look at how we were started, like that kind of seems insignificant, and our destiny seems insignificant.
What do you
So
mean
like,
by how we were started?
well, like the Big Bang, it kind of just happened by chance, and we're kind of just here by chance.
Well, we don't know exactly. We don't know. We don't know how it happened, or it could have been eternal, whatever. But yeah, we don't know. So that doesn't really change much, frankly, because whatever it was, if it was something, we are not aware of it. So at least not in this century. So that doesn't really change my life. I mean, that happened 13.7 something 8 billion years ago. It doesn't affect me. It's like saying Abraham Lincoln's second cousin affects me. It doesn't. That's way back there. What
Well,
affects
like
me is this current
I guess what
life.
a better way of asking that is like we didn't really ask to be here. It just kind of like
Yeah,
happened.
right. Yeah, we are basically just here, sort of by chemical. I guess chance is a good word. It could have been a
Yeah,
different. It could have been a different sperm, and there'd be somebody else here,
right.
possibly. So, but
Like
yes,
to me that kind of seems insignificant.
yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean it's a big universe. We're on one tiny planet of one galaxy, and there's you don't there is no significance to nature. It's just like
Hmm.
a flower, a plant grows over there. How significant is that? The only thing that makes us, I don't know if significance is even the right word, but let's just use it. The only thing that makes us more aware, I guess, than like a plant is because we have a bigger brain and we are able to have, this frontal lobe that gives us the ability to understand concepts and
Hmm.
concepts like significant, So we're aware of the concept, and we're also aware that most people are aware that there's that whatever significance we have does not come from nature. It comes from
Right.
what we choose to give our lives.
So I guess my ultimate question is if you're just kind of here by chance
hmm
and that's kind of insignificant, and your destiny when you die nothing really happens, so
hmm
that's really insignificant.
hmm
Do atheists have the courage to admit that their present reality is insignificant and our lives are?
No, because that part isn't true. Because as long as I'm awake and aware and able to do anything, there is at least at the very bottom there is significance to me, even if nobody cares about me. There is significance to me because I enjoy what comes in through my senses. Like it's interesting to see that thing and that thing. Looking up at the stars. So it's within my own lifetime. It is at the very least significant to me.
Hmm. I guess my question to that is
Is
like
what is
if
yours?
we have
Let me
a
ask: is
okay.
is yours not as significant to you on that basis? Wouldn't you consider that the same way for you?
Well, I look at it as if, let's say we have a great life by our standards and we make an impact in people's lives and we do
Mm-hmm.
something good. And I don't know, maybe
Yeah,
that would be as a doctor in politics, or we do
yeah,
something to help society. Ultimately, one day the universe is going to burn up and the sun's going to burn
yeah,
up. And so that didn't mean anything at the end of the day.
yeah. I mean, most of us will not be remembered past our grandkids. Right.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to a cemetery and look at the names, and it's just we don't know who these people are. I mean, you could do, I suppose, some genealogy and find out some little story, but yeah, most of us do not have broad significance. Some of us have some influence. I mean, there's times in your life, if you pay attention, that you're going to notice that you're having some significance. For me, I mean, beyond yourself. For me, one of the times was when I was a Cub Scout leader.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, 35 or so, and it's like, I was having an impact on these kids. I mean, I was being kind, and all the parents thought I was doing a good job, and so it's like I'm be a good example, and maybe down the road when they have kids, they're gonna remember the good times, and maybe I was modeling some sort of good behavior. So that felt good. That was some sort of significance. I feel there's some significance to what I'm doing now too, just to go to the other end of the life chapters, if you will.
It just seems
So
like ultimately there's no plan to the universe. Like
yeah, there isn't.
as
There isn't.
as great as it is to impact people's lives through
Yeah,
Boys and Girl Scouts, like the whole universe is going to burn up one day anyways.
right. It is. Yeah.
Is
So
that
tell,
does that kind of seem like a sad reality?
I suppose. Yeah. I mean, but see, here's the thing, Robert. I can't do. It's just the way it is. There's nothing to be done about it. Well, actually, okay. Let me take that back. There is something to be done about it, at least in the short term. Within a lifetime, it helps you prioritize what's important to you. Maybe pay attention to figure out what's important to you, because some people have a hard time figuring that out. It for sure helps me become more empathetic to other people, so that I feel that what I do does not impose on them, because I don't want to impose on their one and only existence. So yeah, it influences me that way. I don't have enough control, and none of us do, to I don't know why my dog's barking out there, but someone will get it. I don't have enough influence to think that what I'm going to do in this life is going to go beyond my grandkids. I mean, few of us do, right? There are the Steve Jobs who become sort of permanently into the record books, but who knows? Maybe they won't even be known in 1,000 years. But we're kind of all in the same boat. We get our turn. We get a certain amount of privilege, if you will, to be aware of our surroundings and go, oh wow, isn't that cool? And in the end, it doesn't really change anything. Every planet, every black hole will eventually dissolve into non-matter.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the point is, it's there's what actually is true, and that's the current belief of physicists, that's how the universe is going to unravel, and that seems to be quite confidently true at this point. What I see on the theist side, or not just on the theist side, let me not go there yet, that on some people, they're just really uncomfortable with that concept and that feeling of thinking that they're unimportant, if you will, and that is made worse by religious organizations that tell them essentially that either you're not important unless you're praying to this cult leader or deity over here, and he's telling you what's important to you, which to me is like robbing your life force from you, or that you must have some sort of external mystical purpose that could never be proven. I see it as a sort of a sign of intellectual and emotional maturity to be able to deal with these concepts. And this is not against you, but I think it's a damning criticism of the culture that has brought us to this point where this is what we teach each other instead of what is actual. Because if we learned what is actual, then we become more able to deal with it and to cope with it. And as I said, prioritize our actions and our decisions within this one life while it is important to us. That's when it counts.
So it kind of seems like the best way to go about your life is to come with the grips of, one, there is no plan, two, kind of like the unyielding despair of that, and that gives you peace to go about your day.
Well, there is no plan, but you can make a plan. So just because someone doesn't give you a plan doesn't mean there can't be a plan, because you can just make it. I'm sorry, what was the second one? The unyielding.
Just admitting that there's unyielding despair, and
I don't see it. But to see what you're missing here is I don't see that it causes despair. That's the puzzling part. That's I think what we are culturally taught. That it's despair. It's not despair. It's the absence of whatever. There's no meaning. Meaning is sort of an abstract, nebulous concept that the universe doesn't give us, because the universe only gives us physics and chemistry. So, and we are put together the way we are. We have our feelings. We have our senses. We chew things. We like certain flavors, whatever. There's no purpose. There is basically just function. I personally, and maybe it's only because I've been at this for 15 years now, that causes me zero despair. It actually gives me joy in understanding how things work. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm 65 now. I've got max 20 years on this planet, probably, maybe less. And I find it kind of exciting to realize that I kind of understand the world in a way that I didn't really think I would get a chance to get this far in terms of having enough free time to learn some of this stuff. It's much easier now with the internet, right? So your generation is going to do a little bit better on that. At least I think you're under my age by a generation. So I don't have any despair. No, do you have despair, or do you think it's something? Think about this seriously. Do you really have despair, or do you think it's something that you've just been taught?
What exactly do you mean by that? And I'll just clarify before I answer that. Like I do believe in the Christian God, and I do believe in the Bible. And I hope whenever I phrase these questions, like I'm not coming off as disrespectful. I don't know.
Not to me. You're doing great. Okay. Not to me. I'm a little different than some people, so
there's a little. It's hard to phrase questions like this and not get personal with people.
You'll find I'm a little different than some people online. So
whenever you ask if I find there's despair, I would say no, because my beliefs are a little different.
So explain, is it, you're Christian, you said, right?
Yes.
Is it Jesus or God who takes away the despair for you?
I believe they're one and the same.
Okay, fair enough. How does that happen?
I believe in the resurrection.
Well, resurrection is about forgiveness for sins, though, right?
Yes, which would give us hope.
Because you think you are a terrible person to start, and you will always do horrible things?
I believe that all people have messed up at some point in their lives, and there is a punishment for that. Just to sum up the New Testament, then Jesus took the place for that, and so we can be right with God again. And so that's what I would say would give us hope.
Yeah, that seems a little unnecessary. Like why can't you just be a good person who, makes an occasional mistake? I mean, granted, there are psychopaths who do terrible things, so we're not like that.
I would say that's the main difference in belief is that we believe that one mistake makes you permanently separated, because God is so perfect and so righteous that there has to be a justice system there for us to be one with Him again.
Doesn't that seem like an awfully high standard, especially when Christianity and in general seems to teach that we are born bad from the start because of original sin?
The standard as of
an infinite punishment for a finite crime.
Well, I believe it is eternal punishment. I'm trying to find the best way to phrase this. God is so perfect and sovereign that any type of slip up doesn't put us on the same level as Him.
So then, wouldn't it make sense for Him, if He's all good, to have never given us free will?
Well, then I don't believe He would be. I believe God wanted to be worshipped, and He wanted us to worship Him.
He wanted to be worshipped. So it's not about us; it's about Him.
So ultimately, I think our disagreement is the resurrection, because I believe it happened, and so I believe in the rules, and I'm assuming that you don't believe in the resurrection, so you don't believe.
I just believe.
So I think that's the core of our disagreement.
Yeah. Well, no, okay, so I'll just tell you what's in my head. There's two disagreements. One is that I don't think the resurrection happened. And number two, I don't think that it is necessary for us to be good people, or even better than we were yesterday, whatever. I don't think that we need a deity for that. I think that's within our own control, and to some degree, we need society's rules and laws to help us along that road a little bit. But I don't absolutely see the need at all for a savior. So,
but if the resurrection was true, your thought process on the second one would be different.
No, actually, it wouldn't. It would be interesting, because we don't need a savior to become better people. If there was a savior, it would be like a double bonus. It's just like you'd be okay if you weren't perfect, and if you were. Wait, let me be careful with my double negatives here. It would be okay if we made mistakes, because we are able to improve ourselves and we're aware of our behavior and stuff like that. And it would be okay if we weren't, because then the resurrection would forgive us. So it seemed rather pointless. But we'd be fine either way. So, I mean, I can take away the resurrection piece, forgiveness of sins, and have the same outcome.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think what we're getting at is our disagreement is you believe that there are good people in this world, and I believe that.
Sorry.
And I believe that one mistake makes you a bad person, and we are born bad.
Yeah, and I feel really bad that you've been taught that, because I feel like that's honestly psychological abuse to teach anybody that.
I guess an example.
Do you understand? Do you understand how I can have that point of view?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I can see that. I guess my thought process would be, like, I babysit a 3-year-old kid. His name is Jeff, and if I'm not fully watching Jeff, he will steal food when he's not watching. Like, he has already in his mind. No one's ever taught him to do that, but he already has thoughts and desires to rebel. And so that's what I believe, that all people have a side to them that's made to rebel and permanently separates us from God.
Well, we don't need the God concept. I mean, we all have this combination of cooperate versus take advantage of the other. I mean, if Jeff had a brother, I don't really need to use his name, but if he had a brother and he took away his brother's food, his brother would then learn to take away his food, and at some point they would reach some sort of equilibrium or agreement about who's dominant and stuff like that. That just, the balance in nature just kind of comes along. I really, really disagree with the concept that that we are born bad. We are just born as we are, just like any animal has ever been born, with a combination of instincts. And then the idea that any little thing makes us unworthy of worthiness. It's just, I just find that abusive. I just do, Robert. I'm sorry.
Can I ask you a
question? I think we can do so much better. Always, yes, please.
So I guess Christianity always has a standard of what good and bad, what moral is. How do we as a society, pretending that, all right, so I'll say that there is no God. How do we as a society know good and bad and morality? And what is right and wrong?
Bring something up for you. There is a good book on this, which will teach you where morality comes from in animals and humans. So I'd start there. Well, the quicker answer is that we know, we are aware of each other. We are aware that each of us has a mind that's not our own, right? So that we're aware that the other one is not us. And then we are also aware of what we don't want others to do to us, and that's all you need to get the golden rule. So, treat others as you would want to be treated. And that's the core basis for almost all morality, frankly. And from there, it grows through cultures and times as laws are put together and enforcements of laws and things like that. So this is pretty well established in anthropology and evolutionary behavior.
I guess my question is, how do we know that that's the right way to live? Like, could there be a society that comes together? Like, let's say Nazi Germany never lost and they took over all of Europe to this day and they still operated the same. Like, and to them, they believe that was right.
Yeah. What you do is you look at, if you have this moral dilemma where it's hard to tell, or you're having a difficult time deciding which one is the moral correctness, the moral thing to do, since objective morality doesn't exist, the closest we can get is to look at the morality, look at the behavior from both perspectives, the one doing the thing and the one being imposed upon. If the one being imposed upon would not want it done, we consider that immoral. We consider that a wrong act. So in the Germany thing, people were unalived and captured and all this stuff and put away. Therefore, it doesn't matter if the rest of the population was convinced, because most of them were manipulated or culturally manipulated. That would still make it morally wrong. It's just that simple. So again, that is basically the golden rule. And we do have a problem in the world, and it goes all the way back to kings who have imposed themselves upon individuals, where cruel people can come to power and impose their ideologies on other people. About 1/3 to 50% of the population is susceptible to modified and manipulated belief, and we're seeing that right now in this country.
But if at the end of the day, whenever the universe burns up, like, none of it actually mattered, like...
Right, but it matters to us now, because we don't want things like Germany happening over and over again, do we?
Well, that's where I get back to my original point. If our birth was insignificant and our destiny is insignificant, can we admit that our present is?
Yeah. But again, only in the larger scheme of things. It is never insignificant to me. When I wake up in the morning, my life is very significant to me. So if you're trying to say that's insignificant, that's incorrect. It is always significant to me, and frankly, it's probably significant. Well, it's certainly significant to anybody who loves me, and everybody who's friends with me, and everybody who cares about what happens to me. And it's certainly very significant to my little dog. So, you know.
Do you mind if I kind of change the topic and ask you what are your beliefs about who Jesus was?
Have you subscribed?
Do I just click the follow button?
Just click the follow button.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Give me a question. Thank you.
My question to you is, who do you believe Jesus was?
If I was laying a bet, I would believe weakly, WEAK, that he did not exist and he was a mythological figure. However, I think it's quite reasonable to believe that he did exist and he was a preacher of the day who just went against the teaching of what the Romans wanted people to be taught, which is to follow the gods that they said were the ones to follow, and that he was crucified for it. And that's the end of the story.
So basically just a first century prophet that kind of rebelled against Rome.
A preacher, first century preacher, just like there were others doing essentially the same thing for whichever god they were proclaiming for.
And I assume you think he was like a crazy man.
No, not at all. No, I've spent 10 years studying belief, and sincere religious belief is well within the realm of normal human behavior. There's no crazy. I mean, there can be. People can be very extreme. I know there are brain tumors that happen that make people over the top religious. There's a certain section of the brain. But no, normal human behavior, religious belief is well within the range of normalcy.
Well, I assumed you would have thought he was crazy because he made some very crazy claims.
Like what?
Like one, he claimed to be God. He claimed pre-existence. He claimed to be there at creation.
Well, yeah, I guess in that sense, yeah. I mean, I don't know if I mentioned it. I guess I probably didn't. I'm a retired pharmacist. I had a psych rotation. I did 8 weeks in psych rotation in Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. Oh, no, sorry. That was pediatrics at Cedars-Sinai. Brotman Medical Center was the psych rotation. Anyways. And yeah, I've met people claiming to be God, claiming to be Jesus. And yeah, maybe if for those specific claims, I mean, I'm pretty confident that a lot of the Jesus story is a story. So it's probably elaborated more. But remember too, that in his lifetime, and which is not frankly hard to understand because it's pretty common to now, right? Because there's a lot of strong believers. Well, I don't know. I mean, people who claim to be Jesus now, you're right, either possibly are not all right in the head, or they are being manipulative to start a religion to make money or for power or something like that. Yeah, it depends. I'd have to know a little more specifically. So it is possible for sure.
Well, I guess the difference between people claiming now to be God or Jesus or to be resurrected is they didn't have a 2,000-year religion follow it.
Yeah, they don't have a book. And then, I mean, you know, we've seen those people. We've seen someone like Joseph Smith and L. Ron Hubbard start a religion from scratch. Well, not so much Joseph Smith, because he obviously just tried to take over Christianity, but yeah. So we know it can happen, and that's an example of those two are examples of people who are trying to basically create cults for personal power and gratification, money.
I guess another question I have is, why don't you agree that the resurrection happened?
It's too unusual, and it's too much of an extraordinary claim. It's too supernatural ish for me to think it could possibly happen. We never see things like that happen in daily life. Never. So as like the most extraordinary claim, and I can't hardly imagine it would have to happen essentially in front of us in current day. We never see it happen. We'll see someone come back from maybe 45 minutes, or if they're in freezing water or something, or maybe from 2 minutes or something like that. But we never see people coming back from not being alive, 3 days later. We never see people growing arms back. We never see people being tapped on the head and being cured of leprosy and things like that. The ones that we do see all turn out to be fakes.
Right.
Yeah, so that's just too much of an extraordinary claim. And, it takes more than a book. I don't care how old the book is, 2 days or 2,000 years.
Well, it's the thing with the book is the Old Testament Hebrew was written a couple thousand years before Jesus, and it was translated into Greek about 300 years before he was born.
Yeah,
250 to 300.
But that's kind of irrelevant, Robert, because to me, because it's about the extremity of the claim, not the language or anything like that.
Well, the Old Testament Hebrew, or the Old Testament when it's translated into Greek, it has about over 300 prophecies about Jesus, one about his death, about crucifixion, and crucifixion hadn't even been invented yet.
So if someone wrote a book today and said there's going to be someone who comes back from unlife 10 years from now, would you think that was likely to happen?
No, not at all.
Why? Whatever the why is, that's my reason, kind of. At least, so at least you see my point.
Yeah, I would say that's crazy, and if it did happen, that'd be really cool. But I'm not going to bet that happened. That's going to happen.
Yeah, so we agree. I mean, so you can see that's all. Ultimately, I'm really trying to get at with these conversations is to be able to understand each other.
I guess the difference.
I'm going to move on, Robert, because we've done a lot. Do you have one more thing you want to throw out? Or?
Well, I was just going to say, just to piggyback off that point, the difference was multiple people who had never ever met each other were talking about how there was just going to be this guy named Jesus who was going to be fully God, fully man, be born and crucified and rise from the dead. Some of them about 1,000 years before he was born, and then people go on and say it happened whenever they didn't even this was way before crucifixion was even invented yet, and Rome was even in charge. I would say that would be the difference in that analogy.
Yeah, and to me, it's still such an extraordinary claim. I would think it would be more likely that the book was written to fit the circumstances. So. Anyways, I'm going to scoot on, Robert. Very good conversation. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Nice guy. Very nice guy. Lex T wants to come up. Come on up, Lex. Or Lex L. Sorry about that. I think you were here the other day. Lex Luthor.
Yes, I was. How you been?
Hey, pretty good. Pretty good.
I see that you have some new perspective.
New perspective? No, same perspective. Well, maybe my ability to verbalize it was a little clearer or something. I don't know. But perspective hasn't shifted.
Well, yeah, like you say, maybe you can express your ideas better now, I guess, or I understand it better. Maybe that's what I meant.
Maybe I'm just having a good night. The coffee is just right, kind of a thing. I'm a little more relaxed. Whatever. I'd better, there's days that I think I can't get 2 words out, and I'm not being clear and stuff, and it's just working for me.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So you're still, I guess, is a non-believer, or you don't
I don't have enough evidence or logic to believe that a God exists. Excuse me. I should turn off the mic for that. But nobody can prove or disprove the existence of God. It just seems at this point in history to be an incredibly unlikely thing. So.
Yes, exactly. So, have you got into like what is faith?
Yes, I know that.
Okay.
I know that one. Faith is pretty useless. Faith is something that should not be used because what faith is getting yourself to a conclusion that is not justified. If it was justified, you wouldn't need faith. You would just get to that conclusion, or at least very close to it. Faith is only something that people use when they want to get to that conclusion because they, whatever reason, they find it desirable. They were taught it and never challenged it, or whatever the reason is. Mm-hmm. And they don't have a reason to get there, so they use the word faith to sort of pseudo justify themselves. But it is an unjustifiable move. Faith should never be used. We should only use small steps, which is I use the words confidence and trust. Like, I trust that if I sit down again, my chair will still be there. I don't need faith to do that. I'm very highly justified in having that confidence.
Yeah, but how can we accomplish, like, I guess, something out of our, I guess, current potential if we don't imagine that the impossible is possible?
Something out of our current potential?
Yes.
Can you clarify that phrase? That's interesting.
Well,
I'm not quite sure what you mean.
Like, let's say at my current stage, I want to accomplish a goal, and I imagine that it can be done because I guess, a bigger force inside me tell me that it can be done, like it can be.
Well, okay, so if you want to accomplish a goal, which is obviously fine, you have determined a conclusion, right? You want to get to this end point. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason. You want to build something and you think it's going to be useful to you to use or help you feed your family or whatever. But you don't know how to get there because, you weren't taught how to do that in school. Maybe you were just taught a little bit of it. So you identified the goal, but you can't do it because you don't know how. So I use the word, well, it's not even hope. It is because you've identified the goal, now you have the motivation to learn how to get there or to seek out others who can help you get there because maybe they've done it before you. So you have the motivation. You don't sit there and go, I have faith that I know how to do it, because you don't know how to do it. So having faith, using faith is just like sitting there pretending that you know, number one, and then number two, it's like not actually getting it done because you actually don't have the ability to get there. So,
I think you have the wrong concept about faith. You think that faith is like when people believe that something is just going to be given to them because it's going to. No. What is it?
But tell me your concept, though. That's the important thing here. What's your concept of faith?
Well, is the. I guess it's the system, or like. It's me believing that it's possible, even if I don't see it,
Okay, that's called hope.
Okay.
Again, hope will let you define the end point, identify your desire to get there, without pretending that you are already there. So you don't need faith, because faith doesn't accomplish anything. Faith, unfortunately, is even worse because when you have faith, you convince yourself that you're already there and you don't do anything. If you have hope and desire, you want to get there, and now you have motivation to either figure it out or learn or something like that. You have forward motion motivation. Faith is worse because you don't.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You think that having faith, you don't have to do nothing, but you do have to do You do have to do the work. It just
well, it depends on how you define it. God, sorry.
No, it's just that you have a strong feeling that it's possible to get it done.
Well, I think we're different on semantics there. Then, I mean, if you want to use faith in that way as a motivation, okay. I use the word hope because, like I say, it differentiates the justification. To me, faith is not justified, but if you use it to justify, I'm actually kind of okay with that. In the same way that, see, I used to be in an interfaith group, and I was the atheist in the group, and they would have these prayer days and these public prayer events once a year, and they'd pray for peace and this and that. And it was just like, okay, but can we also do something? Can we like put up, the tables about the United Nations or about Red Cross or advocacy groups or something in addition to the prayer? See, to me, faith doesn't translate into action. It just translates into convincing yourself that you're there. So,
yeah, but you see how you, based on that experience that you have a back concept of the word faith because they were using it wrong, I guess.
Well, they're using it different. I mean, words are usage. So, again, if you're using it in a different way, then I suppose it's okay. I'm not thrilled with it because I think most people don't use it that way. They use it for, like, the typical one is the belief in God. They can't see God, they can't talk to God. I mean, well, they can talk to him, but God doesn't talk back, kind of thing. And then they say they believe based on faith, based on the word faith. So they like basically pretend that they're already there. And they have, even if there is a God listening to them, they really don't know because there's nothing that comes back to you. So if you want to use that word and it works for you to motivate you toward that goal, I'm okay with it to the degree that it does not cause you to believe false things.
But don't you think that, something that you say over there too, that God can talk to you through different ways? It doesn't gotta be a voice coming from the sky. You don't think that God can talk to you like through people, through situations?
I think that a deity can do. I mean, if we're talking about an all-powerful deity, an all-powerful deity could do anything. But it's also possible that no such thing exists, and people who believe unjustifiably that God is speaking to them are missing even the consideration that there's nobody there. And then that reduces their motivation to actually go do or learn or find another road to get from A to Z or whatever it is.
Yeah. Do you think that the way that I say it is that people that do have faith and people that do believe on this deity are not capable of doing it themselves? That's why they choose to believe.
That actually is truer than you'd think to some degree. Because again,
I'm asking. I didn't.
Because this comes up in my study when I studied belief, that there are certain people, a certain number of people, or a percentage of every population that are not complex thinkers. They are sort of lazy thinkers, or maybe they're not able to think of complex things. There's a chunk that do not like not having answers, not having explanations. So they'll go with explanations, of particularly simple explanations, or if or, like black and white, all or nothing kind of explanations. So in those senses, especially if you could combine those factors, there are some people that are indeed incapable of doing whatever complex thing. I mean, we all know this is not putting anybody down. I can't do calculus, right?
Yeah, well, if you think about it too, right? Like, don't you think this might be like this might go into, like, I don't know, maybe conspiracy theory stuff that I don't really like to say out loud, but that I think about it, is that there is a system that use religion to doctrinate the masses to make them like you say, like the other guy, he felt like, oh, maybe I understood it wrong. Like he felt that he was already guilty, so he needed a savior to save him. So he already felt like a victim.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't see my belief like the way that he see it. So he was doctrinated to think that way by his religion, you know.
Okay, that's fair enough, but recognize that there are quite a few people out there like that. We see them on the atheist side because they come and they talk to us, and they tell us about religious trauma. So not everybody, and I'm glad that wasn't your experience, but recognize there are some people out there. So let's look out for them if they come our way, and be willing to help them out. So
Yeah, but I don't think that's gotta do with a part of them believing. I think there's a difference between like
well, let's talk about you, Lex. Let's talk about you rather than us speculate about other people. Let's talk about you. So tell me your. So if you disagree with the other guy because that's not you, so then tell me about you. That's what's interesting is you and me understanding each other as two individuals here.
No, I was just using him as an example because the way that I perceive it when you say like, oh no, these people cannot think for themselves, so or they are not capable.
Some people are, some people aren't. We all have our limits.
Yeah, but that doesn't gotta do anything with the belief. That's what I'm saying.
Well, there are other factors like pattern recognition. Some people recognize patterns easier than others, and some people recognize agency where there isn't. You know, they tend to think that someone's watching them more easily than other people. So there's a lot of different psychological factors that have been studied and what goes into personalities and beliefs.
Okay, and there are people too that are, I guess, atheists that have this characteristic too, no?
Yes. Yeah. Everything, you take any little personality characteristic, like introversion, extroversion, right? That are sort of opposite ends of the scale. And there's always a spectrum from high to low. And there's population along the whole list. So, so an atheist is more likely to be someone who tends not to believe in agency, right? Or, or less often. So the theist would be on the more often believing in agency, and then the atheist would be less often on the agency list. So and in that example, and these things kind of cluster too, which is how we get, if you think of like the it doesn't matter what culture you're in because this is cross-cultural, of like a conservative versus a liberal or progressive person, there tend to be personality factors that cluster together. So we tend to blame those things on religion sometimes, when it's actually the root cause is the personality type, who then tend to become religious or non-religious. So atheists are not. There's nothing special about them. It's just they're on a different end of some of these scales. And this is all within the range of normal. So this is nothing normal versus abnormal.
It's not normal.
This is all normal. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. It's just good to see that there are different characteristics, even on the same, I guess, group of or different culture that people, place each other.
Yeah, and just to make another example of it, like empathy, for example, right? So if you look at the concept of empathy, which is sort of like caring about other people, it's easy to think of that as only a good thing. That can actually be a bad thing too, because if somebody is too empathetic, they are very easy to take advantage of, right? So there's pluses and minuses on everything.
Yeah, sometimes you need to be less empathetic to help the other people out.
Yeah. Yep. The best position is a balance, and the best position is also a balance at a population level. And in fact, we kind of need both elements, because there are times, look at the hurricane that just happened, right? And we need everybody to step up their empathy and help each other out. And there are other times where it's time time to go to war or something, and we all need to come together and be hard and do that for our own survival. So we need both in society in a balance.
Yep. Yeah, we do.
Thank you for the gift, Autumn. By the way, quick shout out, Lex, to Autumn. Autumn's a relatively new, well, she's new to me, so maybe she's been around longer than that, but she's been doing lives, and check out her channel. She does good stuff, and she's one of those types of people I love, because she's in a younger generation, and I think people like that are going to be more influential than this kind of a face. So.
Oh, hey, how are you?
Oh, you just came up. Hey.
Hello.
Nice meeting you, Adam. I will check your channel later on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So how did your life go?
It went well, but I did get it did get reported, like mass reported for hate speech, but luckily I didn't get banned from live. But they just made me stop.
You know, sometimes you got to choose your battles to avoid that. Yeah. It's something that I'm always working on that too, especially on like Facebook and stuff. And you learn after a while what tends to trigger people. And, you know, nobody wants to get shut down. We all want to be able to speak and stuff. So,
Yeah,
you got to be able to express your idea, but not to that emotional level that people get triggered.
Yeah, right, Lex. Yeah. These are, we want to do what we're doing here is have good conversations without pissing people off. And sometimes you just got to say, okay, next. You know? Right. Yeah, you were in a hard one. You were in a pre-sup conversation. That's a really hard one.
Oh, yeah, and I don't know that much about philosophy, and I was being really honest about that. I was like, I just don't know enough about it, like...
Yeah. I saw that. You were leaning on your co-host there, letting him do the hard work.
I was like, you take this part, but... Yeah.
And that's fine. You get better with time and experience, and we don't, we're not all going to be experts on everything.
Oh yeah, so. I'm like the first to say I still have a lot to learn.
Don't we all?
Yeah, absolutely, all of us do. So.
Yeah, the good thing about this life, the way that I see it, is I get to see myself and what I'm lacking and what I get triggered by. And I try to like make myself better, so it will help you. Like you say, it will definitely help you.
Yeah.
Well, I will help her by doing my show, and then she will help me by doing hers. Because, I learned some stuff today, Autumn, from watching the way the other guy's arguments were being made and stuff like that. Because, he was trying to take advantage of you guys in a couple of times. And, the pushing. I started to make a list, actually, and I'll put it up when I have it done, about, apologetic tactics. And I added a couple to the list from listening to that exchange on your show. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no problem. I just take it as a way to learn, a little stepping stone to get in. Yeah.
And some of them are doing it to practice on you too. When I was on the street, yeah. What years I spent on the street, selling my pinky. Doing Ask an Atheist booths. There were literally seven Christian booths, and some of them were like hardcore apologetics and stuff, and the older teenagers would come over to practice on us, kind of a thing, and we try to practice our own skills and develop our own skills, and I was I was the dumb one at the time. But yeah, you get better, and honestly, it kind of helps both sides, right? Because you sharpen each other's skills by doing that, and whatever. I would suggest take note of or remember something that he sort of felt like he caught you on, right? Remember what that is, and go look it up. Go watch.
Yeah, and then just
go watch.
asking a question, and he's gonna fall for it.
Yeah, there's some of that. 'Cause, I mean, that is some of what they do. There is some tactic involved to what they do. He was a presuppositional apologist, so yeah. See how other people deal with those questions. Especially Matt's a good one. Matt Dillahunty. Look at his atheist debates series. But look at different people, because everybody's got different techniques, and you're not going to learn it by doing it once. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, so Lex, you have anything else for us, or should I bring up another
No,
person?
like I said, I love listening, so I guess I'm gonna keep listening. It's good
Okay.
to talk, but I like listening more.
Thank you.
Awesome.
You can follow Autumn's channel from there.
I'm gonna look that up.
Just long press on her, and then she'll come up.
Yep.
All right. I'll talk to you next time, Lex.
Okay, bro.
All right. Let's see, Autumn. Who am I going to invite here? Philosophical one. No. Since you're here, we'll avoid that one. I want you to have a relaxed evening at this point. Smite. This is like a little terrier on his side, it says. There the picture is. That looks cute. Let's invite Smite. No? Not going to come up. Okay. Fine. Be that way. Keck. And 68. Male Buman? Male Buman. Malibu Man. Jeez. All right. Nobody's coming up. I'm not going to bring up Philosophical Man. Tell you what, I'm going to look at the questions, and why don't you answer a question with me?
All right. Awesome.
Let's see what we got back here. Blood sacrifice? No. I don't know what that was. Just got the #1 gifter badge. Ooh, if you're still here, I didn't catch that. Thank you. That's from Gear Gaze Photography. Thank you. May I join? I don't see you down right now. Sorry, I missed you. Next time I'll get you. The universe always existed. We don't know that the universe always existed. Oh, I gotta ask you, Autumn. You're young. I mean, you're under 30. Just between 20 and 30.
Yeah.
I just, without having to get more specific.
Yeah.
How do you know so much at your age? I didn't know that much when I was your age.
I feel like, I'm 20, just to clarify. But I don't know. I've just always been kind of interested in this stuff. Specifically just like how we got here and like, evolution, because the thing that actually really sucked me in was actually, in biology class, like when they were like, oh, like these birds adapted their beaks for their environments. And I was just like, well, I mean, if the earth is like 4 to 5 billion years old, what is that on a grand scale? Like on that level, how old the earth is? Because I was never like a young earth creationist or anything like that. Like, my family never was. So I was just like, that just makes no sense. And I just started really thinking about it. And I really got into evolution in particular. And yeah, that's really what got me into this. So yeah.
That's great. I mean, it's weird being my age. I'm 65 now, because sometimes you look at a younger person and you think, oh, they don't know anything, and then there's this other, you try to remember what you were back then. There's this other thing of, you kind of know when you're young, you actually kind of know more than you think you do, right? So it's this weird sort of growing concept, but it just seems like these days younger people know much more. There's definitely so much more to learn. So, because you've been probably taught more in high school than I was, and then you learn a lot by the online interaction, I would assume too.
Absolutely. So, I also think it has a lot more to do with like, access to like Google and like, a bunch of resources that, you probably didn't have at your age. Like,
yeah, you're right. You're right.
So,
Yeah,
you know,
go to the library and you know, he's got time to spend 3 hours researching to answer one question.
oh yeah, exactly.
And what I love, I've been mentioning this lately, that what I love is it's brand new. I mean, like what, 6 months or less than a year or so, is now we can go to Google and find out consensus. Because Google is, and everybody's putting up their little AI thing now. So instead of just like, how old is the universe, or how did the universe begin, you could ask, what is the consensus of physicists of how the universe began? So that's cool. That is very cool.
Yeah,
So.
and with ChatGPT as well, it's really interesting because you can actually use it if you. What I always do is I look at a claim, I ask for the source because you know you can do that in the next text. I look through the sources. You know, I come to a conclusion and I'm like, okay, that's either correct or it's not. But I think it's just really cool that we just have all these tools now that make retaining information so much easier. Absolutely. And people love, I don't know if you've seen like the STEM TikTok page that you have. I love that thing. I've always been like a huge math nerd, a huge science nerd. I just love it all. So
That's great. Yeah, I'm really glad TikTok put there. I don't remember when they put it. If they put it, I think it was there initially, but I'm not sure. Or if it was a result of, you know, some countries trying to get rid of TikTok and they wanted to have something that was more, that could be like seen as more appropriate and useful kind of a thing.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate.
But yeah, that's great. I love physics channels and science explanation channels. I usually go to YouTube for that, but more and more I'm doing that here. I listen to Dr. Blix in my mornings. He's on here doing physics and God and climate change. You know,
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah,
cool.
every time I'm on my break at my work, because I get like a 30-minute like lunch break, I just put my earbuds in and I just throw on like pretty much any scientific podcast I can find, because Spotify has this whole STEM section where you can like look through any topic you want, and it's like a playlist of a bunch of different like podcasts of different scientific topics, and I just love just listening to it. Like it could literally be anything. I just love learning. It's really cool.
I haven't seen that. I'm gonna have to go find that.
It's super cool. I could send you the link, I think. Do you have Spotify?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can send you.
I usually use Spotify for Taylor Swift's playlists.
I love Taylor Swift. I actually have a shrine, not actual shrine, but like a bunch of pictures of her in my room.
I love her. I mean, I bought her first album when she was 16, right? And it was just a phenomenal first album. And I know it was a romantic young girl princess kind of thing, right? But it was just so well done. And she's just gotten amazingly. I wouldn't say she's gotten better. She's never been bad.
Oh yeah,
it's weird.
She's grown an entire empire. She's always so like calculated. Like she will like release breadcrumbs for like an album that she is announcing when she's wearing this color of a dress. So she wore this color of a dress on this date 2 years ago on the date, and it's like this woman, the way her mind works is just nuts. It's so cool.
It's not only fun, it's part of that just constant interaction that she has with her fans. It's just a love fest, right? It works both ways. I mean, you have to be a performer to some degree too, and you can see some of that. But there's so much sincerity behind wanting to be a good performer too. I put her in the same category as like a Bruce Springsteen. He's always done wonderful shows, amazingly high energy shows, writes his own music, writes his own lyrics. It's always a big plus for me. So my three favorites are female singers are Taylor Swift, Pink, and I was gonna say Kelly Clarkson, but she doesn't really write her own music that much. Well, I forget the third one. I had a third one. Oh, Jewel.
Yeah. Yeah, I like some of Pink's songs, but I like So What. That's probably one of my favorite songs by her.
I like her emotional stuff. She's just, and sometimes I just love the voice. Oh, and she's no longer with us, but Dolores Riordan from the Cranberries was another one.
Oh.
Anyways.
Yeah.
All right, I'm really glad you came up. I've been, we've been sort of missing each other for a couple of weeks here, and I'm always thrilled to have new people. And to let everybody else know, I had texted Autumn earlier today, or DM'd her because we saw each other in the background there, and she said she was going to go live at 7:30, and I said, "Oh, I'm going to go live at 7:30." Perfectly fine with me, because it's like, number one, a younger person I think will have more impact on getting the word out there, but I want us to have as many content creators as there are preachers. So, and the fact that there's going to be a bunch of us at the same time is just like, it's like an auto dealership, right? You come to the auto section because there's like 6 different ones, and you can pick the one you like.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have no problem that we're competing with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Me either. Yeah, I think that it's great to have as many of us out there as we can have, I feel like it's just good to spread the message and allow people to, think critically about what they believe. It's not necessarily always about like converting them. It's always about like promoting critical thought and like, connecting with other people with different, viewpoints. It's not about like winning or losing. It's just about conversing.
So at 20, you're in college now?
Not at this point. I am gonna start nursing school in a year because I have to. Because my nursing home that I work at is gonna pay for it, and I'm gonna become an RN.
Take advantage of it. That's wonderful. My wife's an RN.
Awesome.
And she made a couple of career moves just like that because they had offered to help her with some classes. And then she got into management eventually, and then it ended up in almost the top management.
Oh wow,
by the end of
that's
her career.
really cool.
So yeah.
Oh wow, that's really cool. And they make a lot of money, right? Like
in management, yeah. Once you get at the top, yeah. She had this curve, this income curve over her lifetime because she raised kids first. This is her second marriage, so. Before me, she had kids, and then she went to school to become a nurse, and then her income kind of like did this, and at the very end it went whoot. So we have a reasonable retirement, I suppose, but I don't know. They just cut off our whatever. I was going to say they cut off our Medicare payments for utilities, and I think whatever. I think we're okay. Chris, I've got a Chris back here with nothing on the icon. Let's take some chances here. And then there's a Gab something. I always wonder what people are doing when they've got no icon. It's just like, is it a troll? Is it someone who just made a new profile because they got kicked someplace else? Or
oh yeah.
Hey, free. What is the rest of that? Free. Oh my gosh, how do you pronounce the rest of that?
Cura Finway.
What does that mean?
I'm sorry, I don't know how I got even roped into this. Well,
apparently you pressed
I got a notification that said that I was invited to do a chat.
Yeah, you don't have to stay if you don't want to stay. It's up to you.
No, I don't mind.
Okay.
I chimed in last week. Actually, I was telling you that I was an atheist, and I was interested because you were talking about like you probably just like what did you say, a Gnostic?
Agnostic atheist, yeah, that's my
and so I was intrigued because I never heard somebody else talk about the spectrum of Gnosticism versus atheism and whatever. So.
It's just I think it's an honesty position of recognize it, then we can't absolutely prove that there is not a God. So it's just depends on how you define the word atheist. If you want to say it's I don't believe in God, therefore I'm an atheist, versus I don't believe there can't be a God. So I have a question for you.
Sure.
Have you followed Autumn yet?
Who now?
Autumn, the person right below you there?
Autumn? That's the other person here on the chat. No.
That's
No,
right. So before you leave, before the end of this call, you need to be following Autumn. We help each other out on these things.
Thank
Okay.
you.
No, I don't know. I got a notification that said I was invited onto the live stream.
Yes, you were.
Did one of you do that manually, or
I did it. It comes up on my screen when you're first time you're in it. It gets a thing that says, "Invite this person to join the live as a guest." And I hit the invite button, and then apparently you accepted.
Okay. So what are we doing here? Is this like a Q&A?
This is I don't have an official question tonight, so it's just a whatever you want to talk about thing.
Okay.
I'm an agnostic atheist. I'm into science. I don't know. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I don't know. I guess maybe this goes for either of you. And the first I saw you was last week when I just happened upon you. I'm curious, and maybe you've already answered this many times. I'm sure you answered this many times before, but how did you become an atheist, and what brought you to atheism?
Autumn, you want to go first on that?
Yeah, so I actually grew up in the church. I was a Lutheran for up until I was around 12. I did, unfortunately, get kicked out of that church when I came out to my pastor. He told me that I was no longer welcome there. I dipped away. I was like, I'm not really into this. So I, came back to the church later in life. And I was a youth pastor for a little bit. But I always believed in evolution. You know what I mean? I was always like, yeah, evolution is real. But then I started reading, the Bible and reading about the inconsistencies in the Bible. And that kind of led me to believe that maybe what I had been taught wasn't true. But then I started thinking okay, maybe if I just look into this and I can figure out what my position is. So the more I looked into it and the more that I read about, the potential for the Big Bang Theory, which is, again, a theory, but, I was looking more into that and, the potential evidence we may have around it. And I just started thinking, it's just not accurate to, specifically the Christian Bible. So I was I just stopped believing, and I became an atheist, agnostic. I don't know if I'm agnostic, atheist or not, but, I don't think there's any proof that we can have that can be oh, there is no God, but I just don't think I believe in God, really.
And then for me, I was raised Catholic. I first started to notice things were kind of weird when listening to the sermons in high school. They just started to notice them that they were just stories, weird stories, with supernatural things and people living in fish and all those types of things, the global flood and all. And I left it for a while, for quite some time. Eventually came back to see if it was any better, and it wasn't. That's when I read the Bible, and it was quite clear to me that it was a book about people who believed something, not about deities. And it struck me that it also took place in such a small geographic area of the globe, too.
Yeah, for me, my sister came out as lesbian at some point, and my sister and I, we were always the kind of rebellious types, but we had this priest who I don't know, man. It was just the way he had spoke. I got a very big family. I've told you the last time I was on, big Irish Catholic family, all very local, going to the same church. Comments the guy had made, and having a sister who would come out as lesbian, and understanding that she wasn't really people like her weren't really appreciated the church. I think that in me looking up to her so much, I think that maybe helped me get out of the mindset that the Catholic upbringing had brought me up in.
Seems to me that, and this is very anecdotal, Autumn, maybe you can respond, that the bad treatment of LGBT people has become a big motivation for people to leave their religion. Does that seem, have you got any experience with that, Autumn?
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard homophobic slurs directly said in church, directed at homosexual people. Obviously, I left those churches, but it's just insane to me how they always describe it as like an act instead of like who someone is. There are literally brain scans that show that homosexual men have different brain anatomy than heterosexual men, and it's just like, it would be so, I wouldn't even want to believe in that God at that point, because it's like, what God would make somebody a homosexual and then be like, you're terrible, you can't do anything like that.
Well, see, I mean, that's a good, and the same for trans people, by the way. Now we know that. That's a good example that evidence on the side of the holy books being written by people and not a God who would know what these things were, right? You're going to be the creator, you would know how they were put together. And if you don't want them to be that way, you wouldn't allow it to happen. So just the fact that it happens, and now that we know it, because of the neurology and the studies that have been done over the years, that's like good evidence that this is just a man-made religion. So, yeah, I'm a big supporter of LGBT. This is one of the things that motivates me the most to when I think of people who are I don't know, shunned at the very least, harmed at the very most. So now we've got family members. So it's a thing that really kind of hits my heart. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's crucial. This election, especially, it is very crucial. People are scared about if they can still live in their state after this election, and frankly, even now, right? Florida, people have moved out of Florida already, and that should not be happening in the United States. That should not.
Yep, with people's rights being stripped away, like actively, and with everything going on with like Project 2025, it's just like, and all of this is like Christianity motivated, and this is another example of Christian nationalism that's going on. It's literally, if you've heard, they're putting 10 commandments up in classrooms. I don't remember what state.
Yeah.
And they're forcing people to read from the Bible, but not a regular Bible, Trump's Bible.
Yeah, Oklahoma. It's not, but the thing is, though, too, Autumn, it's not just Christianity. There is Christianity is a higher up thing. There is a set of personality, obviously conservative profile that leads people down this road. So that's like more foundational than the religion. So sometimes we blame the religion where we need to blame those features. The problem is that religion is such a good social cohesion tool that they strongly spread ideas within them, and then there's the shunning of those who disagree with them, right? The looking down on them and stuff. So you get reinforcement of sometimes very good ideas, but you also get reinforcement of very bad ideas.
Yeah, and I do want to bring this up really quickly because it's really just interesting how like mask off this was back in the day. Like I know this isn't like that long ago probably to you. This was probably, I was probably like 6 or 7, so like 2009ish. Yeah. They were showing us videos in like Sunday school, right? And these videos were, I'm not even joking, blatantly anti-Semitic. Like they consistently called Jews, like literally Jews. They were like, Jewish people are just terrible, they're nasty, you can always tell if they have a big nose, things like that. Like, it's literally, and then after the videos would be shown, I literally would, I raised my hand one time and I was like, I've met Jewish people, like, they're really nice, whatever, and they're like, oh, we're not talking about all Jews, and I'm like,
Yeah.
girl, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Those cultural habits just really get intertwined, and the biblical piece of it is scary too, because they're such, well, not, they is a too broad a generalization, but there is an element of Christianity that supports Judaism, not because they support the religion, but because I think it's in Revelation. It's just like the Jewish state has to fall so that the last days can happen, and then in the last days all the Jews will decide to become Christians. So it's like supporting Jews in Christianity to a degree, for some who take it literally, is actually trying to really promote Christian dominance. So it's just like, I look forward to the generations, not my generation, but maybe yours, Autumn, or the one that follows, where this is very much a minority, at least within the United States, and in more European countries, and then the Islamic countries will probably be the last holdouts, but for some time.
Oh yeah, like there are not a lot of people in like, if you can like look at the statistics, I'm pretty sure that like Christianity is kind of taking a bit of a dip in our, generation, and I think that will continue to go down because it is a more logical way of thinking.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Miriam. I was trying to get you up here so that you might have an opinion on this. Miriam lives in Israel.
Hi,
she's a frequent listener. Hey, Miriam.
I'll turn on my earphones. I'm going to take my kids to school. Just wanted to say good morning. This is a difficult day here today, especially because we face the consequences of dealing with people who unalive other people in the name of God.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it was.
just wanted to say thank you for the support to Autumn, who spoke a few minutes earlier. But I really cannot stay because, as you know, the time difference makes it harder, and I really have to take them to school.
Yeah.
Because life goes on. I'll keep on listening, and maybe later I'll try and jump in if I have privacy in the car, and reception, because when driving. Yeah, true. Well, if I ever say anything that's inaccurate, Miriam, I want you to jump in and correct me, okay? Because obviously you know more about your country and religion than I do. Don't remember you saying anything incorrectly. Just remember when you encounter talks about Jews, that Judaism is an ethnic religion. It means a lot of our religion is also cultural. So many of the things that we do here are not around God, but are surrounding about the country, the way of living here. It used to be a very agricultural society, so a lot of the holidays are also arranged around what happened in agriculture. And so the God part of it is important for those who are religious, but for people like me who are atheist and still Jewish and very Jewish. I mean, I live here, I love my people. It's really impossible to take it apart. So
yeah. Let me ask you.
It's very convoluted. Everything is very mixed.
Let me ask you: to my knowledge, in the United States, secular Judaism is, I think, over 50% now. I want to say 70%, maybe.
I don't know the statistics.
So how is it in Israel? What do you think would be the percentage of Jews who are secular versus religious?
Well, the definitions here are a bit different because people can be secular and still be believers. We have what we call Masortim, which is traditional or tradition, people who do believe in God, but still have a completely secular way of life. So you see religious people in science do stuff and believe in evolution and do physics. I mean, everything, the mix is so completely different. And my brother-in-law, who's a physicist, he's a professor, he's also a head of a reform community here in Israel. While being agnostic, by the way, not being a believer. So the mix is so completely different, and the way of thinking is so completely different. And this is one of the things that other people find hard to deal with, and because they try to make it work with what they know of religion, of believing in God, of understanding how you mix life and religion and God, and it works so different because of the way it was created and the way it's connected specifically to the place that's called the land of Israel. So when you look into polls into the Jewish population, so we see about 20% would probably define themselves as atheist, but all the other 80% of Jewish people will believe in God and will be accepting the tradition to some aspect.
Right.
So going from
Not good.
wow. From very extreme Orthodox to secular and still believing in God.
Oops. Hey, David, I'm going to have to drop you and then come back in. That'll probably
and
solve
I
it.
really need to drop. I guess David has something to add because he's
got connection problems, so he'll come back up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but I'm going to go into the elevator, so it will probably,
okay.
in any case, going to disconnect.
As Scotty said,
So,
you cannot change the laws of physics, so...
No, we cannot.
Go into your little Faraday cage and...
Yeah, I will, and have a great day, and good night to you.
Take care.
Not day.
Have a good day at work,
and I'll keep listening. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Miriam.
Thank you.
She's fun. She's nice.
She is.
It's really nice.
Okay. Who have I got up here? I was trying to get David back. I don't see him back yet. Yeah, every time someone's come in with that sort of really strong garble, and they've dropped and come back, it's been fine, so... Mm-hmm. All right. I'm just going to redo a couple of invites. We'll see who's down there. I think we might be coming toward the end here, though.
Alright. I'm probably going to have to head off anyway because I have to work in the morning.
Yeah, I remember work.
I'm getting paid to be here right now.
Alright, have a good night.
All right, take care, Autumn. Thank you for coming up. All right, Free, anything left? Anything else on your mind you wanted to get off your chest or whatever?
Well, I don't know. Man, I don't think so. I'm kind of just listening in. I was scrolling through TikTok and you showed up and I suddenly got that invite to join.
Yeah.
So I accepted it and realized that I was immediately on air.
Well, that's what happens when you accept. When I first started to do this, I was accepting a few things that would pop up, not realizing that I was getting into one of those. What do you call those? So those team interactive things. I forget what you call it now because I never do them. When there's like two sides and whoever gets how many gifts in, was it 5 minutes or something? I don't know. Maybe I'll do one of those. It's usually like Trump versus no Trump or something like that. matches. Yeah. It's like, whoa. It's like I'm in the middle of doing this and all of a sudden I'm in a match. It's just like, no. How do I get out of this?
Yeah, last night, I will say, last night I was at, so my partner, my partner's parents, the partner's father and stepmother, this time of year during the fall, they do like a bonfire every Saturday. Like people from different walks of life get together and have a meeting and a party together, and it's kind of cool. You get to meet people from different walks of life, you know.
Yeah.
And last night I was talking to somebody who knew my partner from when they were 7 years old or so.
Oh, wow.
And he knew them from church. And he at one point like side mouthed to me like, and I'm an atheist now.
Yeah.
And so he and I told him about how last week I got wrapped up in your stream, and I talked to him about the spectrum of narcissism versus atheism, and how there's like it's more complicated than not believing and believing. There's also like confidence in your belief and whatnot.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Exactly.
And
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah.
And he was fascinated in that. So I think
cool.
Next week or maybe the week after or whatever, I'll see him at another fire pit. Maybe we'll
neat.
get into deeper conversation about that. But
yeah, that's neat. I mean, that's how, you know, culturally we spread these ideas, right? So we teach each other. Welcome up, David. Are you okay technically now? Let's give it a shot. Let's see what your voice sounds like.
Yeah, I'm good.
There
Can you hear me?
go. I can hear you just fine.
All right. No, I'm just hanging out, playing some video games with my brother right now.
Nice.
Oh, cool. So you and Free are kind of doing the same thing. I was trying to get you up when there was like a gang here. So it just seemed like it was. Sometimes it just feels like it's going into group conversation. So then I'll invite like 3 or 4 people at a time. So, but now it looks like things are thinning down. So.
Gotcha. No, I'm just hanging out. How you been, Phil?
Doing pretty good. I was going to do an afternoon live today, but I got too far behind trying to do some other stuff. So I just thought, okay, I'll just do my regular evening one. So I want to do some afternoons just to broaden the audience and get the following a little bit more strong and stuff. But I'm doing good. I'm feeling good too. So.
Do you try to do one every single night, or are there nights that you take off for yourself?
Every other night. I'm trying to keep on that pattern.
Oh, okay.
And then it's only happened a couple of times in 2 months. Every now and then I'll have something that will interfere, and I'll have to go to the third night. So, and if I do it in the afternoon, I probably won't do it in the evening, just because I don't have that much voice. It depends. I've had one that went 6 hours. That was intense. But usually it's like a 3-hour thing at 7:30 Pacific.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Seems to fit.
Gotcha. I was asking you a question the other day. I don't know if you answered it or if you got it or if you saw it. But I was just...
Because I won't remember.
So, like, I'm kind of getting away from it, but for a while I was like, let me see how I hold, like, against, Christians or people in their faith. And really I've noticed that they get kind of stuck on semantics. So have you noticed that? Like, they'll say words, like, for one instance, it's like judgment versus condemning, And they're like, no, I didn't say condemn, or I said judgment, not condemning. Only God can condemn. We can judge. And it's like, well, it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's a tactic, and because there could be, what is the word, equivocation, right? Which is sort of shifting the definition. Usually I'm okay to allow people to do that to a certain degree, as long as they're not trying to do it in a way that will try to give themselves an in to something that's untrue. So sometimes you just have to ask them, well, what do you mean, and go with their definition, and then just follow the logic accordingly. to see if there's a problem with the logic. Because, I mean, words are usage, so you have to give some allowance for it.
Right, especially with religion.
Yeah, but just beware of equivocation, where they're really trying to shift to justify a position when something is not justifiable. That's one way to sort of tweak the rules. So there was you guys weren't here. I was listening to Autumn earlier, and someone was just they were throwing out new terms, and it's kind of like a cult behavior where you make up new terms and then speak your sentences so quickly that people get lost in what you're saying. So it's sort of a double technique of messing up the words and confusing them. So it seems like they look like the dumb ones because they can't follow what you're doing, where all it really is a tactic. So
Yeah. But to me, like, it makes no argument for them to me, and it seems like,
yeah.
What are you really arguing? Like, what are you really trying to say?
Yeah, well, they may be arguing good things in terms of it being correct logic, but if you're talking so quickly and complexly that people can't follow you, then that's not a conversation. You're just showing yourself to be a dick. So, if you're talking to someone and they can't follow you, slow it down. Don't call them stupid, because if you're trying to make a point to them, they're not learning anything from you if they can't follow what you're saying. So
Yeah. And I noticed, like, with Ben Shapiro, when you listen to him, he talks really fast and he makes his arguments and points really fast, and it's like really hard to follow. And it's like, I guess you're right, maybe.
Yeah, he's a tough one because I can't follow him sometimes. I mean, I remember when he first started, before he was public, actually, he would show up on these types of things. It was mostly YouTube and even on Facebook, and he was like, I'll debate anybody anytime. He was sort of like getting himself trained up, if you will. And he had a lot of background information, and he's got a very quick brain. But you need someone who can keep up with him, so I'm good that we've got people like Alex O'Connor and Rationality Rules on our side who can handle him and point out the errors that he's making. So, or just the positional realities. He can have an opinion that's perfectly legitimate. It's just not a majority opinion. So,
yeah, I noticed they talk. Sometimes they talk really fast. And then they get heated really fast, so they get very passionate really quickly.
Yeah, the heated really fast, that's something that I'm noticing. I just added that to my list that I'm making of like apologetic red flags. And the heated real fast is starting to look like more of a tactic to me. It's either a tactic or it's the sign of a bad personality, someone who's not trying to communicate but just sort of like stick it to the other guy kind of a thing. So,
all right.
By the way, everybody, I have a bad habit there. I just said guy. We need more women apologists. We need more women involved in this. I'm very happy to see Autumn and Deborah Grace is one of the great ones out here. So hopefully in time I'll lose that habit. Anyways, all right, guys. I think I'm gonna wrap up. Let's see if I got anybody down here. Got Stefan. Let me try Stefan because I tried to invite him, I think, the other day, and I don't think he was able to come up. No, looks like we're done. Okay. All right, David. Well, I appreciate you in the background. I see you doing a lot of activity sometimes in the comments, so I hope you're having a good time there. I can't read and talk at the same time, so.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, no, I like to just, read and stay in the background sometimes because I may be watching TV or in bed or playing games or something.
So,
I really love your live, Phil.
Thank you.
I really love it.
I appreciate it. I really do. I try hard. I try to pay attention and be as nice as I can. And
yeah, no, I think you're very calm on the way that you talk to people and handle things, and I hope more people come on and find you, and because it's really great.
Good. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me up.
Take care.
You too. Bye.